Brian, I remember when I first, or I read for the first time, because I've read a few times now, Life After Doom. Um, you talked about how we're living, there is this sense that there's something wrong. And Meg, as you were just saying, like there's something very wrong. There's a deep sense within us that's almost terrifying to name. But many of us can't quite put our finger on it. We can't quite get there. But you used a phrase in the book that really caught me. You said it's like we're living with this anticipatory dread, that there's that something is headed our way, that and it's creating this anxiety in us. And so I wonder if we could just start there, just with a check-in. How are you?
Mm.
how, how are we in this moment?
And I think we'd like to invite everybody into this conversation at this point too. Let me just tell a quick story from yesterday and one from this morning. So yesterday I went out to my mailbox with my ballot in hand to mail my voting. And it just so happened as I got to my mailbox, two of my neighbors were walking in different directions down the street. I knew each of them, but they didn't know each other. So literally in front of my mailbox, we have a conversation. And I said to my neighbor, Doug, how are you doing? And he said, every morning I wake up with a feeling in the pit of my stomach. I just feel that we're in so much trouble. And he said, I know it every morning until the election. I'm just going to feel this sense that I don't know how things are going to go. And then my other neighbor, she echoed that feeling. And so the three of us were standing there. And first I realized that this is very unusual that there would be three neighbors in my neighborhood who happen to have the same political leanings and would feel the pit in their stomach for pretty much the same reason. Uh, and that sense that we all would identify our problems in a pretty similar way gave us this feeling of connection and belonging. Then this morning, I was in a public place in a line, and the fellow behind me in the line got chatted with the people behind him. And here's how the conversation went. Uh, I think we're going to be okay. I don't think we've lost more than 25% of us to the woke left mob. And then what I realized for about the four or five people in line right behind me, they were having another experience of feeling that they all connected and they belonged because they all saw people like me as part of the woke left mob. And so it just reminded me that we have people feeling all kinds of different things and maybe something different at breakfast to at lunch to later in the day. And uh, I kind of want to say for me, I feel like I started processing the challenges that we face in deeper ways, many years ago. And then I did another deep dive a few years ago. And so in some ways, I feel a little bit like a person who's already gotten a really bad diagnosis. And I'm more waking up every day thinking, I'm alive another day. I'm so thankful to be alive. I can't take anything for granted. But there are days when I have the pin in my stomach too. Um, I'd like to invite uh, Megan, Matthew to uh, respond to that too. How are you holding up? What are you hearing in people around you? And then we're going to invite everybody to respond too.
Well, I wake up every morning not with a sense of dread, but with a sense of knowing
Mm,
that we're entering very dark, turbulent, high conflict times right now with this full moon tomorrow.
mm,
And I've been preparing for this moment for in my work for years. But so my practice has to be
mm,
I wake up, I know I feel this intense heaviness in my body. I
mm,
know it will make me sick and disable me if I don't practice.
mm,
So I get up. I do tend to flick on. through my phone, look at if anything cataclysmic has happened overnight. But then I know I just have to go into a deep, reflective, contemplative, prayerful,
Mm.
meditative space in order to both stop the heaviness and make myself available for the day, because that's my aspiration always. Can I be available this day to others who may need me? And most days I find that place, and some days I just say, I'm just going to deal with my dog today. but it's very real, and that's why we're going to talk about emotions later on, because we
Yes.
have to learn how to deal with
Yes.
this presence. And it does feel dark and heavy and evil to me. I've started using that word also. So thank you, Matthew. It's a very heavy weight to be bearing this.
Mm. Matthew, how are you handling these days?
Well, I appreciate both of your telling your stories. And I have a story to tell that happened to me this morning, unexpected. But as soon as I opened the drapes in my office downstairs, I saw the most amazing rainbow I have ever seen in my 83 years on this planet. It was right outside my backyard. I took pictures of it, but I don't know if they will turn out right. I haven't looked at them yet. But it ran from the left-hand earth, complete half circle, to the right-hand earth. And it looked like it was literally in the yard next door. It was big. It was all the colors.
Um,
And I just stared at it. And I said, wow, we're having this event today. And this might be a sign. And of course, I thought of the covenant promise and the scriptures and
yes.
all this. But it talk about creation spirituality, that let's contextualize things, that Father Sky, that was Father Sky speaking to us, was doing its thing, its magical thing. And I mean, it can be explained scientifically and all that, but it's not the point. The point is it was speaking to me, and I'm sure to all of us who want to listen, that the beauty is there. The universe has been doing fine for 13.8 billion years and invited us on very, very late in the process. And hey, if we would just be grateful and put beauty first, not being number one first, and listen to all our relations, the relationship to the sky, the relationship to rainbows. And so I was bowled over. I've never seen such a rainbow literally in my backyard, much less on morning when three of us were going to talk about doom.
How
And
beautiful.
so I think that it's about contextualizing. The cosmos is an original blessing. It's still going along with or without us. We're welcome on to join if we care to, but it's going to take some kick-ass work, inner work and outer work to stick around. Because for the last several years, one of my meditations has been to meditate on our hominid cousins, whether Neanderthal or Denizen, or now we have 12 others that we've named. They've come and gone. They're extinct. We're the last ones standing. And hey, what an invitation. You mentioned, getting up in the morning and asking Margaret, what can you do today for others? And so what can we do for one another, that this species of ours, which has its troubles for sure, but also its invitation to join the beauty of the cosmos.
Thank you, Matthew. I just need to add something about our hominid ancestors, because one of the things I study is anthropology. It's the way I get out of the present time, is to study what happened eons and eons ago. And I knew that I was writing a piece about circle. And I knew that when early hominids first discovered fire, they would sit in circle, because that was the way everyone would keep warm from the fire. Well, it turns out that there is recent undoubtable evidence that the first hominids who used fire intentionally for food, for tool making, and for warmth. The evidence is they were doing this 1 million years ago.
Mhm.
And so let's give credit to our early ancestors. And some anthropologists say we're going to find evidence from 2 million years ago. They're just quite sure about that. So we were already wise in many ways without having to be Homo sapien sapien, and we're the ones who screwed it up with our sapienness, right? Okay.
Sapiens, it turns out, is aspirational.
There you go. Yes.
So let's go to the chat, and we'd like to invite everyone to just take a moment, just take a couple of deep breaths, and check in with yourself. How are you feeling, and what words would you use to describe the emotions that you've been carrying since you woke up today? And if you feel like putting those in the chat, I think it would be good for us all to see we're in different places. There's not a right answer or wrong answer. The important is an honest response. But let's just look and see what folks have to say about how they're doing. And I think all of us can take a look. Scared, urgency, overwhelmed, exhausted, dismayed, tense and quiet at the same time, grateful, uncertain, cat on a hot tin roof. And we'll just encourage everyone to take a look.
I like cautiously pessimistic. That's provocative.
That is, I don't think I've ever heard those two words put together before. Yes. Deep brooding joy, not gloom, but great sorrow. Cautiously optimistic with a terrified chaser. Courageously hopeful.
These are very strong words, very
Yes.
strong words. Thank you.
Boy, and I think as all of us scroll through and we just realize, as you said, Meg, very strong words, a wide array of words, and I think all of us have resonance with everything or just about everything we're seeing. Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, just as a bit of a way of opening this time, if each of us could, in a real sense, acknowledge the hundreds of people who are on this webinar and have a sense of empathy and connection with the different places where all of us are coming from, where we find ourselves at this moment, and this wide array of intense emotions that we're feeling and experiences that we're trying to manage and experience and enter, and some maybe to foster and some to move through. So here we are in this together. I think this is maybe a good place for us to start, to just realize, yeah, these are intense times. There's a lot of emotion we're dealing with. We're having to deal with a lot in a relatively short amount of time. Cameron, let me turn it back to you. First, any other comments from you, Meg or Matt, after looking at these honest reflections?
Actually, deeply relating to the depths of these emotions, and also often their conflicting paradoxical nature. And then also just reaching out for what I can do or grasping after hope.
Yeah.
We'll talk about hope in a little while.
Yeah.
But thank you for being so present, all of you. Thank you.
Yes.